Welcome back everyone. In today's session, I'm going to discuss 7 very important short answer questions from your workbook, your Morning Star workbook. And the poem is Death of a Naturalist, written by Seamus Heaney. This is another video on request. Do check the pinned comment section for all other important video links related to your syllabus. And I have already uploaded the line-by-line explanation of this poem. So check the description box or the pinned comment section. 7 questions in today's session, and in the next video I'm going to upload 5 more. So a total of 12 short answer questions and answers. First one, what is the question? It's there on the screen. What does the phrase all year given in the first line of the poem Death of a Naturalist suggest? Explain briefly what does the speaker see when he visited the flax dam as described in the first stanza of the poem. So you will have to change paragraphs, and this is a 5 marks answer. Therefore, roughly 1 page, the length. The answer now. What does the phrase all year given in the first line of the poem suggest? Death of a Naturalist by Seamus Heaney begins with the description of a flax dam festering in the heart of the townland all year. This is there in the first line of the poem, and the introductory statement hence is directly related to the question. The expression all year sets the period. This is the suggestion. Sets a period and time scale, number 1, all year, and suggests predictability, routine, expectation of the speaker, here presumably the poet. Now, we have 2 points here. Sets the period and time scale, all year, throughout the year, and number 2, this suggests predictability, routine, expectation of the speaker. हर साल पोएट जब वो छोटे थे एक फ्लैक्स डैम के पास जाते थे टू कलेक्ट फ्रॉग स्पॉन, जेली लाइक एग्स ऑफ द फ्रॉग्स. तो ये हर साल ये चलता था, ये एक्टिविटी चलता था, एंड थ्रू आउट द ईयर द फ्लैक्स डैम फेस्टर्ड इन द हार्ट ऑफ द टाउन लैंड. सो दिस इज predictability, routine and expectation of the speaker. वो अगर वहां पे जाएंगे तो वहां पे वो फ्लैक्स डैम जरूर उन्हें मिलेगा देखने को. Something which he knows and takes comfort in. So as a child he visited the flax dam every year, as he knew that throughout the year the flax dam festered, decayed, rotted in the heart of the townland. So this is the first significance of the expression all year. Next, the process of rotting of flax takes place throughout the year. All year का क्या मतलब है? Throughout the year. Despite the unpleasantness of the surrounding, the speaker describes it in a matter-of-fact manner. Now, matter-of-fact manner का meaning मैंने यहाँ पे दे दिया है. Just have a look. Here, he describes the entire flax dam, the process in a matter-of-fact manner, perhaps showing his visits to the place. वो जब छोटे थे, वो जब बच्चे थे, यहाँ पे regular, occasionally वो जाते थे. And also his observation of it as quite a normal part of the natural world. तो वो जब छोटे थे, तो ये flax dam और ये जगह उन्हें लगता था as a part, quite as a normal part of the natural world, thus suggestive of his innocence. Poet जब छोटे थे तो वो innocent थे as a child. So this routine, this predictability, this expectation of the speaker all suggest his innocence as a child. Therefore, all year, the expression all year is significant. उन्हें idea था और वो जाते थे, and this suggests his innocence as a child. This was his childhood activity. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. तो पहला जो सब पार्ट है उसका आंसर ये है. जस्ट हैव अ लुक, गो थ्रू इट क्विकली. एंड नाउ explain briefly what does the speaker see when he visited the Flags Dam as described in the first stanza of the poem. In the second paragraph, we are going to describe what he saw over there whenever he went there. When the speaker visited the Flags Dam, he saw. Now textual quotations, short quotations, correct quotations. He saw, number 1, green and heavy-headed flax had rotted there. See, I have quoted from the text. Green and heavy-headed flax rotted there, weighted down by huge sods. Everything is there in the poem, in the text. So, learn the important quotations from the text. It sweltered in the punishing sun. Again, another quotation. In the punishing sun. After that, daily, bubbles gargled delicately, blue bottles wove a strong gauze of sound around the smell. All these pieces of information are there in the text. So, I have simply briefly given a description of those things. And then there were dragonflies and spotted butterflies. The poet's favorite thing was the warm and thick slobber of frog spawn that grew like clotted water in the shade of the banks. Thus, so this is a brief description. Now the conclusion. Thus he saw that this place was buzzing and humming with vibrant life. A critical comment. Dear boys and girls, you know by now how I write my answers. I always add critical comment. If it is a 5 marks short answer question, add 1 or 2 critical comments. And if it is your LAQ long answer question, add many critical comments. Analyze the answer critically. तो यहाँ पे जो पोएट जब बच्चे थे उन्होंने क्या देखा? That this place was buzzing and humming with vibrant life. Dragonflies था वहाँ पे, blue bottles and then spotted butterflies, frog spawn भी था. इसीलिए इस जगह को उन्होंने कैसे describe किया? Buzzing and humming with vibrant life. The entire scene of the dam was actually gross and nauseating. Yet the poet found beauty, critical comment, in the creatures that lived over there, revealing his childhood fascination with nature. So this is the critical comment section, and this is also your conclusion. Whenever you're writing such subjective answers, you must write an appropriate introduction and the body where you will justify the points, justify your standpoint with the help of textual references, and at the end always write an appropriate conclusion. एक लाइन का भी अगर एक concluding statement तुम लिखते हो, then you will elevate the quality of your answer. So try to frame your answer in this way. Question number 2. What type of sounds and smells does the speaker notice in the first stanza of the poem? First stanza mention किया गया है, इसीलिए आंसर को फर्स्ट स्टैंजा के मुताबिक हमें फ्रेम करना है. And what is their effect on him? Again, 2 subparts. First subpart में क्या होगा? Sounds and smells. Let's see. Seamus Heaney begins Death of a Naturalist with a graphic description of a flax dam in the heart of the townland with vivid imagery. The way it looks, smells and sounds. Vivid imagery, auditory imagery, visual imagery, and then the way it looks, smells and sounds. This is imagery is important. Prepare a different answer, perhaps a long answer. Imagery. All year the flax dam festered and flax had rotted there daily. It sweltered in the punishing sun. Thus, the entire scene appeared gross, nauseating and a rotting smell. See, I am writing my answer to the point. जो question में ask किया गया है, मैं उसी पे focus कर रही हूँ. So, कैसा smell? A rotting smell, gross smell, nauseating smell is emitted, making the surrounding unpleasant. So this is your direct to the point answer. कैसा smell? What type of smell? A rotting smell. Pleasant smell तो ये नहीं है. So making the surrounding unpleasant. Use words and expressions like this: rotting smell, nauseating smell, gross, unpleasant. Why? Because all year the flax dam festered and flax had rotted there daily. It sweltered in the punishing sun. Finished. Now, smell ho gaya. I will focus on the sound now. There must be logical coherence in your answer, dear girls and boys. So, अपना point जो है वो repeat मत करना. एक point अगर हो गया तो leave it and move on to the next one. Now, I'm moving on to the next section, that is the sound section. It was a space buzzing and humming. So, these words are examples of onomatopoeia. See, buzz, hum. इसी से हमें sound का एक idea आ जाता है. Buzzing, humming with vibrant life. With the presence of blue bottles, dragonflies and spotted butterflies. तो यहाँ पे बहुत चहल पहल था. Buzz, hum. क्यों? यहाँ पे blue bottles, dragonflies, spotted butterflies सब था. Bubbles gargled delicately. The bubbling sound is an auditory image. The loud sound produced by blue bottles seemed to the speaker as a strong gauze of sound. The buzzing of the blue bottles mingled with the foul smell of the flax, thereby created... the buzzing of the blue bottles mingled with the foul smell of the flax, thereby creating a powerful image. Heaney uses synesthesia to describe what the speaker noticed in the first stanza of the poem. Now, what is this synesthesia? Now, if you read the workbook, dear students, you will find this term synesthesia. Synesthesia का मतलब है the mixing of sound and smell and texture is an example of a literary device called synesthesia. और यहाँ पे भी जो स्मेल है, जो साउंड है, जो टेक्सचर है, जो लैंडस्केप है, जो सराउंडिंग नेचुरल वर्ल्ड है, सबका एक मिंगलिंग, एक मिक्सचर है. एंड देयरफॉर दिस इज साइनेस्थेशिया. दिस इज अ क्रिटिकल comment. So in a 5 marks answer, I have incorporated 1 or 2 critical comments. After this, the conclusion. These smells and sounds, the analysis now, are part of the natural world in which the poet lived as a child. So, this is a recollection of the poet's childhood memory when he used to visit the flax dam. So, part of the natural world in which the poet lived as a child. Now, the second section of the poem. What is their effect on him? इन सारे smells and sounds कैसे poet को affect करता था? Let's see. The poet found beauty. This is the effect. The poet found beauty in the creatures that lived there. The stench का क्या मतलब है? Foul smell was strangely appealing to him. Another effect. The stench was strangely appealing to him. So found beauty, number 1. Number 2, strangely appealing to him, and he did not feel repulsive or disgusted. Another effect. उन्हें ये अच्छा लगता था. He did not feel disgusted. Such a technique helps to convey the speaker's fascination with the natural world. So in this way, he was fascinated with the natural world and his eagerness to explore it. He was also eager to explore it. So smells and sounds, then the effect, and also critical comment at the end. A compact answer. Write like this. Number 3 question. What is it? Let's read very quickly. Why does the speaker describe the frog spawn as the best of all? What does it suggest about the speaker? Now, the answer. Death of a Naturalist is a recollection of the poet's childhood experience of collecting frog spawn from a flax dam situated in the heart of the townland. He describes the frog spawn as the best of all because, now the reason. Introductory statement में मैंने क्या कहा है? Poet's childhood experience of collecting frog spawn. मैंने question से ये relate कर दिया है answer को. And then the justification. He describes a frog spawn as the best of all because, number 1, he finds beauty in creatures that live there, such as the dragonflies, spotted butterflies, and the jelly-like eggs of a frog. They are his favorite things. So the jelly-like frogs' eggs are his favorite things. He observes them. He observes, let's just write down, he observes the eggs, the frog spawn. And every spring he would collect jam potfuls of the jellied specks to range on window sills at home, on shelves at school, and wait and watch the fascinating dots burst into nimble swimming tadpoles. So, इसीलिए ये एक फेवरेट एक्टिविटी था जब पोएट छोटे थे. बचपन में वो वेट एंड वॉच करते थे और इन फ्रॉग एग्स को टैडपोल्स में डेवलप करते हुए देखते थे और टैडपोल से फ्रॉग्स में वो कैसे ट्रांसफॉर्म होते थे, ये सब उन्हें देखना अच्छा लगता था. स्विमिंग टैडपोल्स. और हाउ डिड ही बिकम सो क्यूरियस अबाउट दिस? Miss Walls, his teacher, has taught him and his classmates about the different types of frogs and how to tell weather by their color. So, the poet has the most liking for the warm, thick slobber that grew like clotted water in the shade of the banks. This has been his normal activity as a child. Therefore, best of all क्यों? Favorite pastime of the speaker. तो वो curious हो जाते थे because of the classes taken by Miss Walls और वो practical life में frog spawn collect करके wait and watch करते थे जब तक the fattening dots did not burst into nimble swimming tadpoles. And what does this suggest about the speaker? This suggests that the speaker's experience of collecting frog spawn was once filled with wonder. So this activity was once filled with wonder. He sees the frogs as the most fascinating creatures. Class में जो पढ़ाया गया उसे वो practical life में, natural world में वो relate कर पाते थे. And therefore he used to enjoy this so much. Childhood innocence. The study of the life cycle of the frogs arouses his curiosity and he becomes a naturalist with the nauseating and cross area strangely appealing to him. Thus, this shows his childhood fascination with nature. He has loved this activity very much for years. जब तक वो एडोलेसेंट नहीं बन गए, जब तक टाइम इलैप्स नहीं हुआ और वो एक ग्रोन अप यंग बॉय नहीं हुआ, तब तक उन्होंने इस एक्टिविटी को बहुत एंजॉय किया. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन नंबर 4. See, 1 page for each answer, 5 marks. After this, question number 4 में क्या है? Let's read. What would the speaker do every spring and why? A simple question. ये एक छोटा सा आंसर होगा. 5 marks. In Death of a Naturalist, Seamus Heaney describes a flax dam festering in the heart of the townland, an area buzzing and humming with vibrant life. Same reference material है, मगर मैंने different तरीके से इसे use किया है आंसर में to frame the answers. So these are reference materials, dear students. Read all your reference materials and frame the answers according to the question. वर्कबुक में जो है, मैं जो बताती हूँ सब सेम ही होगा, क्योंकि जो बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट है वो सेम है, उसमें कोई चेंज नहीं आने वाला. इट्स जस्ट हाउ यू फ्रेम योर आंसर एंड यूज द रेफरेंस मटेरियल्स properly. Every spring, now the direct answer. Every spring, the speaker, here presumably Heaney, would fill, क्या करते थे वो? Would fill jam potfuls of the jellied specks, quotation, to range on window sills at home, on shelves at school, and wait and watch until the fattening dots burst into nimble, swimming tadpoles. वो इस प्रोसेस को, रिप्रोडक्शन जो है, इस प्रोसेस को, लाइफ साइकिल ऑफ फ्रॉग्स को वो बहुत क्लोजली वॉच करते थे. पेशेंटली ही यूज्ड टू वेट एंड वॉच द eggs bursting into nimble swimming tadpoles. And now, why? Reason क्या है? As a child, he loved to observe nature. He was a naturalist and he was curious about the life cycle of the frogs. This was his childhood fascination with nature. So these are critical comments. Learn these points. He wanted to gain first-hand knowledge about the development of the eggs into tadpoles. He had already learnt about it at school from Miss Walls. See? वो relate करना चाहते थे. एक बच्चा क्या करता है, जो वो लर्न करता है उसे वो प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ में भी एक्सपीरियंस करना चाहता है. सिमिलरली Seamus Heaney also as a child did the same thing. He found beauty, same point, मगर फ्रेमिंग कितना डिफरेंट है. To the point answers directly related to the questions. You must learn to analyze what is being asked in the question and then frame your answers accordingly, adjusting the length of it. He found beauty in this process and had fun. See, he had found beauty, he had fun while being involved in this activity every spring. हर spring season को वो ये सब करते थे. The frogs did not seem grotesque. ugly नहीं लगता था, threatening नहीं लगता था. In this phase, जो childhood जो phase है, this phase का मतलब क्या है? Childhood. Adolescent वो तभी नहीं हुए थे. And were once seen as fascinating creatures. Favorite, best of all in fact. Thus this activity marked his childhood innocence, and gradually it will bring about a shift in his perspective, filling him with fear and disgust. This is the conclusion. मैंने conclusion में ये add कर दिया. Every spring ये जो normal activity था, जो फीलिंग्स वो फील करते थे, वो जल्द ही चेंज होने वाला है जब वो एक एडोलेसेंट बन जाएंगे. सो दिस इज द आंसर, अ सिंपल आंसर. जस्ट गो थ्रू इट अगेन, रफली 1 page. We'll now move on to question number 5. Let's read the question. It's there on the screen. Describe briefly the imagery. यहाँ पे हमें imagery पे focus करना है. Used to describe the life cycle of a frog from specks to becoming tadpoles and finally the frogs. A descriptive answer. In Death of a Naturalist, Seamus Heaney has used vivid imagery to describe. See, imagery. First statement में ही मैंने imagery को use किया है, इस word को, to relate it to the question. And in this way, the examiner is going to be impressed that you have understood the question and you are writing according to the question. So these are some tricks that you must master the art of writing such subjective answers so that you can score well. In Death of a Naturalist, Seamus Heaney has used vivid imagery to describe the life cycle of a frog from specks to becoming nimble swimming tadpoles and finally the frogs. So textual quotation मैंने use किया है और question में जो जैसे question था उससे इन सारे words को मैंने वहां से उठाया है and I have framed the introductory statement and the examiner, trust me, will love it. You are writing according to the question. रटा रटाया हुआ एक आंसर ये नहीं है. He or she will get this impression. So this is an art. Master this art. This development marks a shift in the poet's perspective from childhood fascination with nature, enchantment, to loss of innocence, fear, disgust and disillusionment. Finished. Critical comment introduction में ही मैंने यहाँ पे use कर लिया है. Describe briefly the imagery. So imagery देख के हमें ये पता चलता है there has been a shift in the poet's perspective. The natural phenomenon. Now, the life cycle. The natural phenomenon, ये एक natural phenomenon है जो life cycle of frogs है. The natural phenomenon of the life cycle of frogs begins step 1, step 2, एक के बाद एक में इस frog life cycle को explain करने वाली हूँ step by step. So beginning क्या है? With the daddy frog croaking and the mammy frog laying hundreds of little eggs in the flag's dam. This is the frog spawn growing like clotted water in the shade of the bank. So this is a poem, dear girls and boys. Refer to the text and then write the life cycle. See how I have framed the answer. Textual reference लेके मैंने इस natural phenomenon को यहाँ पे explain किया है. This answer is a perfect, compact answer. Textual quotations use करो और अपना जो answer है उसे frame करो. Come on. The jellied specks are protected from the punishing sun here. Shade में है, इसीलिए protected. And the warm thick slobber changes to fattening dots which gradually burst into nimble swimming tadpoles. This is written with close reference to the text. Simple मैंने जो एक biology book में तुम साइंस बुक्स में पढ़ते हो, ये होता है, लेग्स होता है, फर्टिलाइजेशन होता है, ये होता है, वो होता है, ऐसे मत लिखो. Write from the poem. And what is there in the poem? I have just explained it briefly. Later, these tadpoles develop into frogs. Heaney uses visual imagery. So this is a critical comment on the imagery, use of imagery, visual imagery, to describe this process of how the fertilized frog eggs change into adult frogs. A compact answer. Learn from here, no problem at all. After this, the conclusion. Introduction में मैंने critical comments use किया था. Conclusion में भी मैं critical comments use करने वाली हूँ. Thus, images like jam pot fulls of jellied specks arranged in rows on window sills or on shelves at school, the eggs in the flag's dam and the angry adult frogs present a graphic representation of a natural phenomenon like this. So this is a graphic representation. We can simply visualize it in front of our eyes. Imagine कर सकते हैं इतने graphic way में, इतने vivid way में इस picture को हमारे सामने पेश किया गया by the poet Seamus Heaney. So, a simple question but a complex answer. And interesting. This is an interesting way of writing such answers. Now, question number 6. Again, 5 marks. Question number 6 क्या है? What does Miss Walsh tell the speaker about the frogs? उन्होंने क्या कहा है? In Death of a Naturalist, the speaker, here presumably Seamus Heaney, remembers how his teacher, Miss Walls, taught him and his classmates about the different types of frogs and how to tell the weather by their color. She called. Now, उन्होंने क्या कहा था? Briefly, in detail, how the daddy frog called the daddy frog a bullfrog and he croaked, as a result of which the mammy frog laid hundreds of little eggs. इस साइंटिफिक फैक्ट को कितने आसानी से मिस वॉल्स ने बच्चों के सामने पेश किया, एक्सप्लेन कर दिया. This was frog spawn. The frogs were yellow in the sun and brown in the rain. So Miss Walls explained the reproduction of frogs in simple, critical comment है ये, child-like language. Seamus Heaney तब बच्चे थे, इसीलिए मिस वॉल्स ने भी बच्चों को समझ आए ऐसे लैंग्वेज में इस चीज को एक्सप्लेन कर दिया था. In the first stanza, now, what is the next part of the question? Very quickly, how does he interpret her lesson in the second stanza of the poem? अभी तक हम सिर्फ first stanza में फोकस कर रहे थे. Now, we'll have to move on to the second stanza and we will have to show the difference in the attitude of the speaker. In the first stanza kya tha? The poet found beauty in the frog spawn and was curious to observe the eggs, wait and watch until the fattening dots. He was curious to observe the eggs, just add this, used to wait and watch until the fattening dots burst into nimble swimming tadpoles. Here, he interpreted Miss Wals's lesson from a child's perspective. तो पहला perspective क्या था? Child's perspective. अब second stanza में क्या perspective है? However, in the second stanza, he interpreted it from the standpoint of an adolescent. So this is the change. Child's perspective, adolescent's perspective. So, in this way, write your answer. He was overwhelmed by the sight and sound of the frogs in the flag's dam. He no longer found them beautiful. Another comparison. No longer found them beautiful. Instead, they were gathered there in great numbers. The gross-bellied, best of all से ये क्या हो गया? Best of all frog spawn से gross-bellied frogs sat on the sods with their loose necks pushed like sails. Again, textual reference compulsory. Thus, his perspective shifted from fascination and enchantment to fear, disgust and disillusionment. Critical comment must be mentioned. He had collected jam potfuls of frog spawn after learning about them from Miss Walls. Miss Walls से ही उसे ये सब सारी चीजें पता चला और वो अपना फर्स्ट हैंड नॉलेज लेने के लिए वो फ्लैग्स डैम के पास पहुंच जाता था जब वो छोटे थे and he used to collect jam potfuls of frog spawn. But then he realized that if he were to dip his hand into the water, the frog spawn would cling to it. So, Miss Wals's lesson about frogs as a family, like human beings, made him believe, very important, that the frogs would come to protect their offsprings and take revenge on him. Therefore, he was filled with fear. You will have to mention this in your answer. Second stanza में ये सारी चीजें, इन सारी details को तुम देख लेना. Next. On him for separating their children from them. जब वो छोटे थे तो वो जाके वहाँ से frog spawn collect कर लेते थे. कभी सोचा नहीं. Actually, he was perhaps separating the children, the tadpoles, from their parents. तो जब वो adolescent बन गए, थोड़ा experience of life उन्होंने gain कर लिया, तब उन्हें पता चला, तब उन्हें guilty feel होने लगा और उन्हें fear, he was scared that the frogs might come to take revenge on him. Hence, he feels guilty and feels a sense of impending punishment for his act. Therefore, this shift in attitude. Adolescent में he has undergone an internal shift. And this internal shift has made him realize that there is duality in nature. Beautiful भी है nature और harsh भी है nature. और since उन्होंने फ्रॉक्सपॉन को अपने माँ बाप से अलग कर दिया, उन्हें जरूर शायद पनिशमेंट मिलने वाला है. After this, today's last question, it's question number 7, video number 1 का last question, and then we'll move on to video number 2. Describe briefly the change in attitude. A very important question. लॉन्ग आंसर के लिए भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, शॉर्ट आंसर के लिए भी ये बहुत बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. सो प्रिपेयर दिस वेरी वेल. चेंज इन एटीट्यूड. When he visits the Flags Dam on one hot day मतलब second stanza. Focus on the second stanza. In Death of a Naturalist, the speaker here, presumably Seamus Heaney, undergoes a shift. Again, introductory statement में मैंने जो क्वेश्चन में है वही यहाँ पे रिपीट कर दिया है. From childhood fascination with nature to fear, disgust and disenchantment. Critical comment directly right at the beginning. Change in attitude यही चाहिए इस आंसर में. The poem takes a turn when the poet describes how the frogs become angry and invade the Flags Dam on a hot day. The poet observes the frogs in the Flags Dam and describes how they are gathered there in great numbers, are louder and more aggressive. Right down the dam, gross-bellied frogs sit on the sods, their loose necks pulsed like sails. Some of them slop and plop and some sit poised like mud grenades. Simple explanation. ये सब details book में ही हैं. So, the poet no longer, critical comment अब, attitude क्या है? Seems to look at the dam with the eyes of a naturalist. Very important. Second stanza में death of a naturalist, not with the eyes of a naturalist. First stanza में eyes of a naturalist. He can no longer stand the nauseating smell of the place and mess of the frogs in the Flags Dam. Initially, so a contrast. इस contrast को हमें mention करना है clearly. Initially, he finds beauty in the natural world despite the unpleasantness of the surrounding. The dragonflies and spotted butterflies strangely appeal to him, but later, अब क्या है? The very same setting is repulsive. A direct contrast, beauty and now repulsive. His words, I sickened, turned and ran, show the poet's change in attitude. A quotation, he is overwhelmed by the sight and sound of the frogs. अब बस हो गया है. ये कितना gross है, grotesque है, ugly है. Thus, there is an internal shift, critical comment in the conclusion in the speaker. He has dipped his hand into the frog's pond many times before. पहले भी वो ये कर चुके हैं. Without fear. Very important, without fear. पहले. But now he is scared. For the great slime kings, best of all frog's pond. अब क्या हो गया? Great slime kings are gathered there for vengeance on him. Meanwhile, metaphorically, the shift is now the critical comment. Just have a look. Metaphorically, the shift. Just turn the page very quickly. The shift is the death of the naturalist. Critical comment within him. Due to his journey from being an innocent child to an adolescent who realizes that there is duality in nature. With adolescence comes the knowledge, comes the realization that there is duality in nature. Duality in nature का मतलब क्या है? The natural world can be both beautiful and harsh at the same time. This is again a short answer question, a compact 5 marks answer. जो shift है मैंने उसे clearly यहाँ पे explain कर दिया है. And now question number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in video number 2.